Northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome, I'm Alastair Stewart, and for the next 2 hours I'll be keeping you company on TV and radio with the stories that really matter across the country. We are at street parties. We will look ahead to tonight's concert and we will talk to a fascinating woman who organises parties for the royals. We'll also take a look at what happens next week when the rough and tumble of politics is rejoined. But first, let's give you all of the latest news with Tamsin Roberts.
Alistair, thank you. Good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Members of the royal family are attending events across the UK as the third day of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations gets underway. The Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge will pay tribute to the Queen this evening, addressing crowds at Buckingham Palace Jubilee concert. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are visiting Cardiff Castle to meet performers and crew involved in the Jubilee concert taking place on its grounds this afternoon. And the Earl and Countess of Wessex are in Northern Ireland meeting members of the public and those who have personal memories of meeting the Queen. Well, Her Majesty, who's been experiencing some mobility problems, will be missing the Epsom Derby, which is taking place this afternoon. Well, let's cross now to our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, who's at the racecourse for us now. Hi, Paul. Now, the Queen may not be attending, but are celebrations going ahead as planned there?
Yeah, pretty much. The Queen's not going to be here, and we've been talking to people in the past hour that have been coming through the gates, 36,000 of them, in fact. And yeah, they're a bit disappointed because the Queen's not going to be here, but they're still going to celebrate what the Queen means to them. They're still going to be joining in the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. In terms of how they're marking it here, well, the Queen Elizabeth II stand has been officially named just that in the last few days, so that's one way they're marking it. And then later on there's going to be a kind of jockeys guard of honour for jockeys that have ridden for the Queen in the past and ride for her currently. They're going to form a guard of honour. Princess Anne is going to arrive on behalf of the royal family, and she'll be in the royal box watching the action. 7 races in total, which start at 2 o'clock. The Derby itself is at 4:30. I think a lot of people are going to put money on Nation's Crown. That is one of the top tips, and if it comes in, it'll be as good a one as one of the Queen's horses winning herself.
Thanks very much for the tip there, Paul. And weather looking good for you. Let's hope it holds up. Paul Hawkins there at Epsom Racecourse. We'll be hearing from Paul a little later on. Well, the royal family has wished the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's daughter, Lilibet, a happy birthday as she turns 1 today. The couple's second child was named in honour of the Queen, who was given the nickname by her grandfather, King George V, when she was a child. Harry and Meghan are back in the UK for the Jubilee. So far, neither Lilibet nor her older brother Archie have been seen in public at any of the Jubilee celebrations. To other news now. Police say an incident which led to London's Trafalgar Square being evacuated was not terror-related and that they have no further concern. It follows reports on social media of an explosion being heard in the area. City of Westminster Police say officers attended a report from a member of the public shortly after 9 a.m. of a suspicious vehicle. Officers remain on scene and the square will reopen in due course. Rail passengers in Scotland and the north of England are being warned of significant disruption to services over the bank holiday weekend due to striking workers. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union at Transpennine Express have walked out in a long-running dispute over pay. The company is advising people not to travel today or tomorrow with a very limited service in place. Anyone heading to Jubilee celebrations is urged to seek alternative transport. Meanwhile, post office workers are also striking this weekend in a dispute over pay. Staff at some larger branches have walked out. Meanwhile, those working in administration will strike on Monday. Around 3,500 union members are involved in the dispute. In Ukraine, Luhansk's governor says Russia has been blowing up bridges across the Seversky Donets River to prevent Ukrainians from bringing in military reinforcements. He reports Ukraine has pushed back Russia's advance in the eastern city of Severodonetsk, taking back around 20% of the city. The Ukrainian official says troops can hold out for up to 2 weeks, despite Moscow deploying reinforcements. Oleksandra Matvichuk, head of the Centre for Civil Liberties in Ukraine, told GB News that their resistance protects other nations.
We have to remember that Ukrainians are fighting not only for our freedom, because Russian officials very clearly indicated that Ukraine is only intermediate goals. If he will not be able to stop Putin in Ukraine, he will go further.
Just a warning, this next story contains flashing images, and Mariah Carey is being sued for £16 million for copyright infringement over her hit song, All I Want for Christmas Is You. The singer and her co-writer are both named in the lawsuit, which is being brought by songwriter Andy Stone. Mr. Stone claims that he co-wrote the song in 1989 and has never given permission for it to be used. The song was released in 1994 and became the best-selling US Christmas song of all time. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens, of course. Now, though, it's back to Alastair Stewart and friends.
Tamsin, thanks very much indeed. What a remarkable couple of days that we have already had, and there's a couple more to go. We'll be looking forward to what is still to come with the Platinum Jubilee, looking back at a few highlights, picking through it for what really mattered as opposed to what was just, frankly, unbridled joy, and nodding to the big political battles that have been paused but will be returned to come Monday. We're also at Epsom, unlike Her Majesty, and we'll have a terrific interview with a woman whose job in life is to organise parties for the royals. She's absolutely electric on seating plans, but lots more besides, so that's still to come. And as always, we want to hear from you. Highlights, bits that perhaps annoyed you a bit, but bits that sent you into raptures, and how you think that the monarchy looks moving on, and how are you yourselves celebrating? Send all of that stuff to us, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can go onto Twitter, me personally, or GB News, go onto Facebook, and all the rest of it. We genuinely want to hear from you, and we'll share some of the best bits back throughout the programme. So, to get us underway, I'm delighted to say that we're being joined by our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, who is in the studio with me. There he is in... we worked together for 4 hours solidly on Trooping the Colour Day, and I think loved so much of it, particularly the imagery of it. But what takes your fancy looking ahead to the remaining 36, 48 hours, Cameron?
We did, Alistair. I mean, I practically live at Buckingham Palace this weekend, but tonight we have an amazing star-studded concert where the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge are expected to pay tribute to Her Majesty in front of a crowd of 22,000 36,000 people, and we have A-list celebrities who will be performing. Queen will be performing, Diana Ross will be performing, and Sam Ryder, the UK's Eurovision runner-up, as well. But this afternoon, Her Majesty the Queen, we know now that she is not going to be attending the Epsom Derby. The Princess Royal is going to be taking her place. However, we have had some lovely footage through just this morning showing Her Majesty's love of horses. Now, this footage was shot in April at the Royal Stud in Sandringham. The full feature is going to be on ITV Racing a little bit later this afternoon. It shows her love of horses. She feeds the carrots to the horse at one point, and some of the features feature her racing advisor, John Warren. 13 years he's been Her Majesty's racing advisor, and he was actually given the Royal Victorian Order in the latest Queen's New Year honours list. But tomorrow, perhaps, we might see Her Majesty the Queen appear again on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, so at the end of the pageant. So we'll have to see, Alistair.
Fingers crossed. And just before you go, thank you for those pictures. I said to the producer when I knew that they were around, I said, oh, we must run them. Because, as you quite rightly say, she loves horses, she loves all things equestrian. But you mentioned the National Stud. It's a business as well. And she may not have a horse in the Derby today, but she's got horses running, as you heard just a little while ago on the programme, horses running at 3 other meetings. She takes it really seriously, and it is a business for Her Majesty as well. Keep in touch. Look forward to working with you over the next 48 hours, Cameron. For the time being, thank you very much indeed. Have a great day. Well, delighted to say 2 other friends of mine were sitting here with me in the studio listening to what Cameron had to say. Norm Baker, former Liberal Democrat Member of Parliament and Home Office Minister, and Angela Levin, who spent time with me as well when we were doing Trooping the Colour together. I just want to ask you a general question for your take on how we've gone so far. And it's consciously leading up to your question about your book and what state the monarchy is. But how do you think we've done as a nation in celebrating this unique event, for unique it is?
I think it's done us the world of good. I think it's been like a sort of instant medicine that has boosted us out of this horrible hole we were in. Certainly I was. I didn't want to go out. I was frightened. I stayed at home writing, working, everything from home. And then when I went on Thursday to come to Buckingham Palace, I had to fight my way politely through thousands of people. They were all smiling. They were all happy. They were chatting to me as I walked through. Yeah, go on, if you're pressed, go on. You know, it was just lovely. And on my way back, I spoke to quite a few people for my own interest. And they all felt that they'd had like a jab of happiness.
And that's a lovely analogy, Norman, because in a sense, I mean, Her Majesty's also referred to it specifically, having come through COVID and the coronavirus and the lockdown and stuff, she consciously said, I hope this celebration will create new memories, fresh memories and happy memories for the people.
It's a different sort of jab, to pick up the metaphor, actually, from the one we've all been having in recent years. And I think there's a combination of different bits and pieces coming together here. First of all, we're now largely through COVID. Some people have got long COVID. I don't want to dismiss that, but the nation as a whole is largely through COVID. And that is a time to get out and see people and do things and enjoy the world again in a way that's not been possible for recent years. Secondly, the weather's been very good. Let's not forget that. It would have been much less enjoyable had it been tipping down, but fortunately the weather's been very good. And also, perhaps most importantly, I think people want to say thank you to the Queen, personally. It's about that. And I think that they recognise that she's given 70 years. She's 96. She's still in the saddle, to use a Duke of York's... Not Duke of York. He's somewhere else. The Archbishop of York's phrase from yesterday. And also, I think, an understanding, unspoken, that there won't be another Jubilee. And this is the time to say thank you rather fully. So all those things come together. And I think that's a reason why people have enjoyed the extra bank holiday they've had, and will enjoy the next couple of days too.
Let me just do this. If you're listening to our conversation on GBNews radio rather than watching us here on television, there's the quote that Norman just referred to. It was the Archbishop of York who had to step in for the Archbishop of Canterbury at short notice because the Archbishop of Canterbury had tested positive as well. And there's the quote: "We're grateful that you are still in the saddle." Lots of quite good horse riding analogies in what I personally thought was a great sermon. But also, if the cameraman can just hold there we go, the other unspoken matter of Harry and Meghan back in the frame. We have to talk about it. The papers are all over the place. People out there are interested in whether it's unfinished business or whether this is the beginning, the process of resolving it. Here's my thought, Angela, first, and then Norman. Being in the second row, not behind the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge, but in the second row, even behind people like the Wessexes, he wouldn't have been there if the Queen didn't want him to be there, but it was, to me, a visual snub.
Yes. Absolutely.
Conscious visual snub?
Absolutely. Well, he's no longer a working royal. And actually, they've bashed the royal family for so long. They've been so rude. It wasn't a case of moving on, leaving. It was a case of how they've done it. And it's been insulting in the extreme. Accusations, lies. It was such a wrong thing to do, the Oprah Winfrey. And I think... although the Queen might be forgiving because she loves him, he's her grandson, and maybe obviously she doesn't like what they've been doing, but I think the public feel very much against him because of what he's done to the Queen. And we feel that she needs respect, and Prince Charles and Camilla and William and Kate, and not to give any respect and to lie about it and to take advantage of things that he knew the Queen wouldn't like. I mean, she doesn't like anybody using their royal status to make money. And this is what they've been doing non-stop.
Yeah. Have they misread it rather than anybody else misreading it?
I don't actually agree with Angela. First disagreement of the morning, because I think that the royal family has applied a hierarchy to where people are sitting. They're very fossilised in this way. Everybody has a place in this structure. And Harry and Meghan have moved down the charts, as it were, because they're no longer working royals. I think that's the explanation for the second row. I mean, I don't think that they've behaved entirely accurately and fairly. I mean, they have been slightly tacky in some of the stuff they've done.
As you're talking, Norman, we're just seeing pictures of them arriving, and one of my producers was pointing out to me earlier, they got the full proper royal car and they were escorted down the aisle. It wasn't a total snub.
No, I don't think it was a snub at all. I think, as I say, it was an application of hierarchy. But it's interesting that when they arrived, there were certainly far more cheers than there were boos for them when they arrived, unlike, dare I say, the Prime Minister, who had a different reception.
But actually, I think if you looked at Harry's face, I spent a year with him when I wrote his biography, but he wears his expressions and his feelings on his face, and you could look at it, and he was absolutely furious. You could see he was furious. He was like they were the last time.
Because he was in the second row?
Yeah, he was furious that he had to get people to move out and come in. He was very angry. I don't know exactly what it was, but he was very, very angry.
Well, maybe it all suddenly rushed before him what he'd done and what the price to pay was. We've got 2 or 3 minutes left, and I asked you to bring that copy of your book in because it matters, Norman, and I want to talk about it for the last 2 or 3 minutes. The book is called And What Do You Do?, which is a very clever play on what Her Majesty is apparently normally says to people when she meets them for the first time, to let them say, oh, well, I'm a newsreader, or I'm a politician, or I'm a biographer.
And they don't answer very well. The next question is, have you come far?
Yes.
Did you write it because you actively think now is the time to look at this institution, whether it's the monarchy itself, the crown, or all of the appendages, the various orders, the rows, as it were, of them?
I think it's because the monarchy is very important in our society. Clearly, it plays a major role. It plays a role.
You're a monarchist or a Republican, personally?
Well, I could live with a modern monarchy such as we have in the Benelux countries, which we haven't got here, to be honest with you, and that's part of the problem I perceive, because we have still the vestiges of an imperial monarchy, where the rest of them, the German Kaiser, the Russian Tsar, the Austrian Emperor, have all gone. Ours is the last of that nature. So I think there is a need to look at the monarchy in proper constitutional terms. Not only in that, but also how it interacts with the government, because it's part of the structure of our society. And I'm afraid the press don't really do that very well. The press either are highly intrusive and looking at matters they shouldn't be looking at, helicoptered above Harry and Meghan's house, that sort of thing, which is highly intrusive, or they're all over them and putting out nice pictures of the kids.
I said to Angela before we came in that one of the things I find genuinely intriguing, and it is an excellent book, and it's an important agenda, it shouldn't be swept away and dismissed, and now is a perfect time, as Christopher Hope wrote also very well in The Telegraph. It's a good time when the nation is in a positive mood, Angela, to say, right, is what we've got good, or are there things that we can change? That runs against the fact that it's evolved through English civil wars, through changes of faith, Catholic, Protestant, the rest of it, and it's hung on in there for 1,000 years.
I think
Will it do it itself?
Well, it has done it itself, hasn't it? Because the Queen in 2011, well before Catherine and William's wedding, realised that in today's world you couldn't say that if their baby was a girl, that no, she couldn't be the next monarch. She would have to wait. And now she took that away, so whatever child had been born first, that they could be...
It's a classic example of it. And also when the deal was done for them to pay tax, open up the palace.
Yes.
Evolution, not revolution.
Well, look, I mean, the name change actually was a result, dare I say, of David Cameron pushing it when he was Prime Minister. I happen to know because I was a Minister at the time. The Palace agreed to it, but the idea came from him. And as far as Buckingham Palace and everything else is concerned, look, I mean, Buckingham Palace is costing £359 million for a refit, all bells and whistles, and yet the Queen did pay for Windsor Castle to be repaired in '92. So in that sense, we've gone backwards. And it's actually worth noting that the income from Buckingham Palace from the ticket sales is regarded as private income for the Queen, but we pay for the refurbishment. So there's still quite some way to go. To be fair to Prince Charles, he has said he wants to modernise the monarchy. He wants to have fewer people in the balcony. He wants to change things. And I do think that change is necessary, and actually it's important for the future of the monarchy to survive.
Going to have to park it there purely because of the time. You come back any time. You're very welcome, both of you are. But I do just give a final plug because he was generous and well-behaved not to do it himself. But Norman Baker's book, And What Do You Do, is worth reading. We're not going to preach an agenda here to you. We don't do that at GB News, but we do say, hey, this is something that you might like to have a look at. Norman, great to see you as always, and Angela, always a real pleasure too. And stay in touch. Thank you both very much indeed. Listening to that and joining me now, I'm delighted to say, is another good friend of GB News and a friend of this programme, and that is Di Davis, former Operational Unit Commander in charge of Royal Protection for Her Majesty the Queen and indeed other members of the royal family. It never fails to amaze me how freely they do walk about and among us, safe as houses. Is that a clever illusion?
Well, it is an illusion in the sense that we are still at the middle level of the risk in this country. A terrorist attack is regarded as likely, not going to happen now, but it's there in the background. And the illusion comes from preparation and planning. In our style of protection, and those officers still doing it now, 20 years on after me, it is the fact that they are experts in the pre-planning, along with the military, who were fantastic, I thought, for the last day or two. Absolutely unbelievable, the discipline, structure, etc. But it's a combined team effort, along with those you don't see in the backroom boys, as it were, the intelligence services. It's a massive operation, and each event, whether it's in London, in Cardiff, in Edinburgh, wherever, is pre-planned. And what if scenario is always there in the background. Thank goodness this occasion, touch wood, has gone so well so far, but I'm always apprehensive.
I totally agree with that, Di. And I was very struck, though, when we were covering the Trooping the Colour celebrations and particularly the march back along the Mall to Buckingham Palace, because it reminded me of when Her Majesty was riding Burmese and somebody in the crowd pulled a gun, but also not a million miles from that same location when the Princess Royal was in a car and they got hijacked and bumped in. These things can be brushed over, but when something like that happens, when there is an episode, do you guys all stop, pause, review the rules, or say, hey, thank God the rules worked?
Well, yes, and in both those instances, the Metropolitan Police and Royalty Protection learnt valuable lessons. But, I'm a historian now, and I do lecture on the history of attacks on our royal family. And it's a fascinating tale, which 99% of the public still have no idea. But I always say you need to know the lessons of history and translate them into the actions of today and tomorrow. And clearly, the Metropolitan Police, Royal Protection Command now, they've learned some of those lessons. And the two incidents you refer to, as a consequence, you have what we call backups, those officers that you see following or advancing. And that happens wherever they go now, because it's clearly important that you have a reserve capability that can tackle. The young man who tried to shoot Her Majesty on trooping at Cully was a 17-year-old. Did you know he'd written to Buckingham Palace telling them he was going to do it? Unfortunately, it got delayed in the post. He was mentally ill, without a doubt. And that's one of the biggest risks that the Metropolitan Police and other forces throughout the country with today and indeed tomorrow will face, are those who are fixated. There is a specialist unit now who tries to figure out who, where and how. But it's not a science. It can happen, as we saw with protesters and indeed, the various terrorist groups. Go back to 2015, VJ Day. There were two plots to bomb Her Majesty then, which again, lessons have to be learned, and you apply them to your best ability.
Sure. Di, we have to leave it there. I'm grateful for your time, as always. Intriguing, insightful and reassuring. Thank you very much indeed for your time this Saturday afternoon. That was Di Davis, former Operational Unit Commander in charge of Royal Protection for Her Majesty the Queen. Listen, watch, plan and amend where necessary. You're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and Friends here on GB News TV and radio. We've plenty more still to come on the programme. Things will be going back to normal for the Prime Minister on Monday, but has the Jubilee been a real distraction for him? All of that to come and lots more, but first let's bring you up to date with the very variable weather.
Looking ahead to this afternoon in the UK is looking cloudy with heavy local thundery showers in the south, drier and brighter elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. Starting with the southwest of England, and it's rather cloudy with scattered showers and some sunny spells. The showers will possibly be thundery at times, increasing again later. A similar story in the southeast of England, rather cloudy with some sunny spells, but also showers which could be heavy and thundery at times. Some sunny spells are likely over South Wales, but also rather cloudy here with scattered showers. The showers will also be heavy at times. In and around the northwest of England, the weather will steadily improve. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunshine on offer, feeling warm in the sunshine and light winds. The weather remains very similar across the Pennines in the northeast of England. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunny spells, but cooler and cloudier along the North Sea coast. In southern Scotland, it will also be dry with plenty of sunshine for all. With light winds, it will feel warm in the sunshine. There is very similar weather in Northern Ireland too. It will also be dry with plenty of sunshine here, also feeling warm with the light winds. Variable amounts of cloud across the south with a continued risk of heavy thundery showers while remaining dry elsewhere. And that is how the weather is shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome back. It's just coming up to 12:30. You're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and friends here on GB News TV and radio on what continues to be a celebratory weekend of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. From Jubilee parties to party politics now, however, which have been somewhat put on hold. After a tense few weeks in Downing Street, there's been a very quiet couple of days during recess and the distraction, of course, of the Jubilee celebrations. But MPs are back on Monday after that break, and tensions are still running high. Could Boris Johnson still face a no-confidence vote, or does he have the backing of his MPs? To help me assess that, I'm delighted to be joined now by Dan Hodges, political commentator for The Mail on Sunday, and there he is. I'm going to ask you one of those simple but I hope telling questions, which is simply, what is your assessment? We saw and witnessed the booing as they arrived, as the Johnsons arrived at St Paul's yesterday. Much commentary upon that. But in the main, the newspapers are front to back the Jubilee stuff. What's your assessment of where we sit at the moment politically, Dan?
Well, as you said, I mean, certainly the main coverage this morning is on the Jubilee celebrations more broadly. But for Tory MPs who have been weighing up whether or not to finally make this move against Boris Johnson, I think they were looking very, very closely, and indeed were frankly very alarmed by the booing that he received yesterday, because what a lot of Tory MPs were saying to me yesterday was that, look, this really shouldn't be the sort of crowd that was booing a Conservative Prime Minister. This should be Boris's base. And so to answer your question, the perception I've got, and I think the general perception from most people in Westminster, is that when we come back on Monday, Boris will be facing a leadership challenge. There is some debate amongst Tory MPs about whether they should wait until after the forthcoming by-elections to see how he performs in that. But the general mood sort of today is that we're going to see a leadership contest triggered sometime next week.
There's an awful lot of ink has been expended on saying that may well be the case, but the likelihood of him actually losing that vote of confidence is by no means certain.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think you talk about the ink that's been expended. I think I've expended most of it over the last few months. I mean, we've had this contest sort of speculated about for quite a long time. I think at the moment, again, this is just the broad perception. At the moment, the perception is that if there is that contest, then Boris will have sufficient support to stay on as Tory leader and Prime Minister. But the question is, and the issue everybody will be looking at, is how many MPs, if we do have the challenge, how many MPs will fail to back him? And obviously that is the key thing that we've seen in leadership contests of this kind in the past. It's very rare for a Prime Minister to lose outright on the first contest, but the question is whether or not there will be so many of his MPs who withdraw their support that he's fatally wounded and we are looking at another contest in a year's time. I mean, that's very
sort of reminiscent of the defenestration of Thatcher and the first vote and the second vote. I totally agree with that analysis. Final point, I'll tell you what really did catch my eye, Dan, and that was Tobias Ellwood saying that the Conservative Party needs to consider re-entering the single market and sorting out the post-Brexit scenario. And Tom Tugendhat, who has not said that he sent a letter in, but has displayed his own concerns about the leadership as well, quite publicly saying, no, Ellwood is wrong on that. I mean, that is really a very tasty disagreement between two of the bright young Turks.
It is, and I think it shows how seriously Tom Tugendhat is preparing for a leadership contest. I mean, he's been, of all the potential candidates, I mean, to his credit, he's the one who's actually come out and stood up and said, yeah, I would actually quite like to be Prime Minister, which is quite refreshing from the normal, well, I can't see the circumstances sort of double speak that we get. But I think what was significant is that Tom Tugendhat, who is someone who is normally identified with the more one nation liberal wing of the Conservative Party, came out and very clearly said, no, we're putting this European issue to bed. This is not something we're going to look at. And that, I just think, shows how serious he is about any potential candidacy.
For what it's worth, I agree with you 100%. Dan, it's always a real pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you. Dan Hodges there, political commentator from the Mail on Sunday. It is now 25 minutes to 1. You're watching and listening out to Alastair Stewart and friends, with plenty more still to come this afternoon, including another look at the Queen's love of horses. That's because my production team love me as well. Oh, it's all indulgence. But first, let's bring you right up to date with all of the news. Here again is Tamsin.
Alistair, thank you. Good afternoon from the GB newsroom. It's 12:34. The Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge will pay tribute to the Queen this evening, addressing crowds at a Jubilee concert. The open-air show is being staged in front of Buckingham Palace with an audience of 22,000. The palace has confirmed that Her Majesty, who's been experiencing some mobility problems, will be missing the Epsom Derby this afternoon. Well, the Queen has taken part in a video call with recipients of the Australians of the Year award.
Wonderful to have. How lucky we get technology and I can speak to you all, which is splendid nowadays, isn't it?
Her Majesty was introduced to 4 Australians who've made outstanding contributions to their communities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. During the call, the Queen said she was delighted to meet them and commend them on what she called marvellous work. Police have carried out a controlled explosion in London's Trafalgar Square. It follows a report from a member of the public of a suspicious vehicle shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. The square was evacuated and the force says the incident is not terrorism-related. In Ukraine, Luhansk governor says Russia has been blowing up bridges across the Seversky Donets River to prevent Ukrainians from bringing in military reinforcements. He reports Ukraine has pushed back Russia's advance in the eastern city of Severodonetsk, taking back around 20% of the city. The Ukrainian official says troops can hold out for up to 2 weeks, despite Moscow deploying reinforcements. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Stay with us. Alistair will be back in just a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio. On digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's coming up to 20 to 1. You're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and Friends here on GB News TV and radio, covering the celebrations of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. Well, today marks the third day of Platinum Jubilee celebrations, and it is, of course, the day of the Epsom Derby. Now, although Her Majesty will be missing today's races, her love of horses has never gone unnoticed, and we've alluded to it a couple of times already on the programme. However, this year Her Majesty doesn't have a runner in the Epsom Derby, although I am told that she does have horses at 3 other meetings. The Derby, which is kind of the ultimate 5-star gold standard of flat racing, is a race that she has never won. Our Scotland reporter David Donaldson looks back at the Queen's fascination with racing over the years.
It's a love of horses that has spanned a lifetime. Royal Ascot has a special place in the Queen's heart, and she has missed the opening day at the Berkshire course just once during her 69-year reign. Grand National winning trainer Lucinda Russell feels Her Majesty's love of horses is mutual.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, it just sort of goes back to the love of the horse. I mean, I think you can see when she rides, there was that lovely photograph of her recently riding a beautiful white horse, and I think, you know, she must, it's just great. The way, when you see footage of her around horses, you can see that she genuinely loves them. She looks them in the eye and she touches them, and they seem to adore her, and I think it's a measure of a person, isn't it? It's not, the horses don't know that she's royalty, but they seem to adore her as well. I've been very, very lucky. I received an OBE from her a couple of years ago, and actually we talked about racing. She'd had a winner the night before, so we discussed how any winner is something to celebrate.
And it was this first classic win for Carrozza in the Oaks at Epsom in 1957 which probably fuelled her love of racing.
And Carrozza it is, challenged now by Schulkensider, and Carrozza in the last 150 yards, to her edge to the Queen, her legs clear, and Pickering's working hard on her, Sucking Knight is coming right up, and suppose it can only be a fraction if it's Carrozza.
So the Queen leads in her first classic winner. A magnificent Derby Oaks triumph for jockey Lester Piggott and the man behind the scenes, trainer Noel Merlis. A great result as the royal owner, who has so often greeted defeat with a smile, enjoys a big race triumph.
The Queen also enjoyed classic wins with Pall Mall, Highclere, Estimate and Dunfermline. 8 times national winning hunt jockey Peter Scudamore feels she has been an incredible ambassador for racing.
Whatever you think about the royal family, you know, that's for each individual to have his own opinion, but I have just the horse part that they've brought to us is, I mean, I think in any sport, you know, it gives you something to speak about, talk about, and makes people normal, and they are. It's fantastic. I'm very, very grateful to them, to what they've done for horses.
One thing that she's never managed to do is have a Derby winner.
Yeah, well, I mean, she knows where we are. If she wants to send a horse here in training, we'll put that right for her. Did you hear that?
And it's not just racing that Her Majesty enjoys. Earlier this month, her horse Balmoral Leah, a 5-year-old Grade Dun mare, was named Supreme Champion at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. The Queen's love of horses also extends to her beloved Balmoral, with the stud there breed ponies, which are used by the royal family to reach inaccessible parts of the estate while out shooting. And just down the road here in Ballater, where the Queen is a regular visitor, the Jubilee celebrations are already underway. David Donaldson, GB News.
Davey loved every frame of that. Thank you very, very much indeed. And as he nodded towards there at the end, she does so much work for rare breeds as well, not least up at the Balmoral stud. And she's a strong, strong supporter. You saw her there in the Royal Box if you were watching us on television. Let me explain if you were listening on radio. That was the Royal Box at the Windsor Horse Show, where she doesn't just come down from the castle to watch what's going on in the show jumping and the dressage and stuff. She's an active competitor and she loves showing her ponies and is very, very successful at it. Now, so thanks for that. I hope you enjoyed it. We did mention in the introduction to it that Her Majesty doesn't have a horse running in the Derby, and I loved Scudamor's line about, well, she knows where we are if she wants to put one in for training with them. But I just looked at the race card for Epsom, and let me just point out that given we are here celebrating Platinum Jubilee, there are a couple of horses that you might like to take a look at. Desert Crown, obviously, and that's currently the favourite, but there's also Nation's Pride, there's Royal Patronage, and even, perhaps for the younger ones amongst you, Changing of the Guard. So there we have it, runners and riders at the Epsom Derby. That's a little bit later on this afternoon. Now, the first Saturday of June marks the day of the Epsom Derby. It's a tradition. Huge crowds of 125,000 are expected on the Downs today, let alone millions who'll be watching it on television. As I said, it had been hoped that Her Majesty the Queen would be at the Derby, but Buckingham Palace has confirmed that she won't be attending this year due to her ongoing mobility issues. And the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, will be taking her place. GBNews' Paul Hawkins, however, is at the Epsom Derby for us, and I have to tell you, my dear friend, I am deeply, deeply envious. Two questions. First of all, what's the atmosphere like, but also, importantly, what's the weather and the going like?
Right, the going is soggy to very soggy, right? I can answer you that now because this morning it absolutely teamed it down here and there were a lot of very miserable looking people staring out the windows, looking at the rain, wondering is the sun going to come out? I can tell you the rain's gone. The forecast is looking much, much better, much, much drier for the start of the races at 2 o'clock. The Derby itself at 4:30. By the way, spoke to former jockey Dale Gibson earlier. Changing of the Guard is his top tip. So the atmosphere here is picking up with the weather picking up. 36,000 people are going to be filing in here. We've spoken to some of them already. Yes, they're disappointed because the Queen isn't here, although they understand, of course, why she's not here, and they're still going to be celebrating the Platinum Jubilee. She's not just loved, of course, within the UK. She is one of, if not the most famous, most influential and much loved women in the world. And so there's a lot of media coverage here, Alistair, from around the world. To give you an idea of what it is like, how the Queen is viewed in the rest of the world, we can speak now to Ashley Chevalier, who's from French broadcaster BFM TV. Ashley, first of all, just why do you feel you need to be here?
It's very important for us, for French people and for French TV to be here for the Jubilee. We are here for the 4th day of the Jubilee. We came at 18 people from my TV channel here to cover this event. And we have, during those 4 days, a lot of breaking news.
Yeah.
Every time there is someone from the royal family at an event, we are in breaking news in France. It's very important.
Yeah, so just what does the Queen mean to the people of France? Because the royal family opinion is divided, but everyone loves the Queen, and that's right. That's true in France.
We love her. I have the feeling that French people miss their monarchy. We cut the head of our king, but we miss it, and we can. When we see the monarchy in the UK, it's all the folklore, everything that we like, and we think that the Queen is so tiny, so fragile. She's so cute. How couldn't love it?
Yeah.
Love her.
Do you think this could be a controversial question? You've just had an election in France. Do you think the Queen is more popular than Emmanuel Macron?
Yes, of course. Of course, she's more popular. Yes, of course.
Yeah, and you'll be covering the Platinum Jubilee tomorrow as well.
Yes,
you'll be at Buckingham Palace.
We are going to all the events. So we are going to Buckingham Palace tonight and tomorrow for the pageant parade and everything. Every time there is someone from the royal family. Princess Anne, later tonight, Prince William. We are going in breaking news. because people want to see images of the royal family, even if it's not the Queen.
Brilliant. Really good to talk to you, Ashley. Thank you so much. Ashley Chevalier there from BFM TV in France. So that gives you an idea of how much the Queen is loved around the world. People here, obviously they want to see the Queen here. They're looking forward to seeing Prince Anne on the box, but they're still excited about being here on Derby Day. This is what they told us earlier. How excited are you?
I'll tell you when I get my winnings.
Yeah, you might be having. Are you having a flutter as well?
Oh, I am. Yes.
I think today is all about, or the Jubilee celebration to me is all about family coming together, and friends and family sharing a bit of time, quality time, and that's what she represents for us.
She's put our country first for 70 years. It's fantastic.
Wonderful person. She's done her job like she says she would have, and she was took her investiture. She served the country, and that's exactly what she's done. A proper role model.
Luckily, we have seen her before at the Derby, haven't we? So we've been quite lucky there. I mean, it is a shame.
Yeah, it's not going to be quite the same. We did book the tickets quite a while ago, expecting the Queen to be here for the Platinum Jubilee, but we do realise that she's at an age now and she can't fulfil all of the duties that she's going to do this weekend.
Everything that she does, and even at the age she is now, she's still doing it all. It's just incredible, really.
She's just brilliant for what she's gone through over the past number of years and how she's dealt with everything. She's just brilliant. Absolutely, she's an icon.
So yeah, Alistair, people here are still in jubilant mood, if you'll forgive the pun. Changing of the guard, that was the top tip for later. Princess Anne is due to arrive any second now, and in fact that's why the big band just over my left shoulder have moved into position. She's going to come along the racecourse up behind me in her car, and she's going to make her way up to the royal box behind me. So we're waiting for Princess Anne to arrive, and then the races start at 2, the Derby's at 4:30.
And thank you so much for finding the brilliant Ashley from French Broadcasting. I wonder whether she'd hesitate when you said, is Her Majesty more popular than Monsieur Macron, who, to his credit, sent a lovely message of congratulations, and she just said, yes, straight away. Brilliant stuff. Keep in touch, and when you've got more, send it in, and we'll be pumping it out as the day unfolds. But for the time being, Paul Hawkins there, live at Epsom. Thank you very, very much indeed. And it will be, as he said, a fascinating Derby Day, and those celebrations are just beginning to get underway. Now, away from the horse racing, millions of you have poured out onto the streets today to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, a great British tradition dating right back to the early part of the last century. It was once called a peace tea to mark the end of the Great War. That was back in 1919. Street parties, however, fast became a British obsession, and today is still no different. Up and down the country, communities are gathering to celebrate Her Majesty's 70-year reign. So let's cross to give you a taste of some of that to our wonderful reporters who are indeed up and down the country. We have Will Hollis in Grantham in Lincolnshire and Ed Crawford in Ipswich. Where are we going to start? We're going to start with Will.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, you can see in the background there, over by the street party, it's just about to kick off, actually. They've actually been taping all the flags down because there's been so many problems with wind here. It's really windy today in Grantham. It's not started yet because there is still one very important thing that's missing. So if you just come down here with me, we're going to go and have a little bit of a look at a very important man at this street party. Obviously, every person at a street party is going to be a little bit important, but this guy has got one very big responsibility. Hello, hello. Hiya, how you doing? How you doing?
Now, thank you. Just putting the finishing touches to my Platinum Jubilee trifle.
We've got Clive over here. Now, Clive over here knows that we were coming. He knew that we were going to come in and say hello to him. We're live on GBNews on TV and on radio right now. You're the man in charge of the Platinum Pudding.
I am, yes.
You're doing the last minute touches to it.
I am.
Where did you get all this from, and how come you've ended up being the man that's doing the platinum pudding?
Well, I offered to do it at a meeting of the people that were putting this street party together, and we'd heard that Gemma Melvin had won the competition for the Platinum Jubilee pudding, so I thought, well, I'll have a go at doing that.
A few different segments. I looked at the original platinum pudding. This one looks fantastic as well, but there seems to be a lot that goes into it. How long did it actually take you to do this?
Well, I started doing it on Wednesday night, because of course you start off with trifle sponge, or this is a lemon Swiss roll, and then an orange and lemon jelly, and that has to set. So that's set overnight, and then Thursday night I put the lemon custard on it. Then last night I made the mandarin coulis, and I've just put that on, and amaretti biscuits and whipped cream.
And seeing how it's turned out today, does this give you kind of flashbacks, or do you feel that you're actually quite proud of what you've managed to do here? It seems to be such a big task and such an important task for a street party.
Well, that's right, yes, and it did take a lot longer than I thought, and quite difficult to find some of the ingredients. I think everyone's making this, and trying to find the lemon jelly was really difficult. And as far as the amaretti biscuits are concerned, I ended up having to get them from Amazon.
There's a cost of living crisis going on right now, so there's a shortage of some foods, but there's actually maybe a shortage of these foods just because so many people are making this.
Right,
is that what you found?
That's what I found, yes, absolutely, yeah.
It is looking fantastic. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. Do you have a sweet tooth as well?
I do indeed, yes. You may have some later, but you're not having any at the moment.
Not just yet. You know what, when the party is in full swing, we'll go over. Just before we finish, it is a big celebration, 70 years of the Queen on the throne.
Absolutely.
What does that mean to you living here in Grantham?
It's massive, yeah. I mean, I was here, we had a great time at the Silver Jubilee back in 1977. I'm a big monarch lover, and I think the Queen's done a fantastic job. And 70 years is a real achievement, and that's not going to happen again any time soon, obviously, is it?
It's a little bit quiet out there right now, but I know it's going to be pumping over the next few hours. I am going to see if I can convince Clive here to let me have a little bit of his trifle. It does look fantastic. Alistair, if we had the time, I'd send you a slice home as well to the studio in London, but until then, I'm sure you've got a few cakes lying around.
Love listening to the enthusiasm and the expertise of your brilliant guest, and my only concern is that if that street party does deliver the numbers that we're all hoping for, it may be just a slightly small cake. But to him and to you, Will, thank you very much indeed. Let's cross over now to Ed Crawford. There he is in Ipswich, and I think I can hear some music in the background as well, Ed.
You certainly can, Alistair. At the moment, things are just gearing up here in Ipswich, but a lot of people were out celebrating the Queen's 7th Jubilee. And, you know, we've been speaking to people all over, and it's a really diverse mix of people in Ipswich at the moment. And one of the great things about the Queen's Platinum Jubilee is it's a great opportunity for everybody to come together. We've got a lot of people here saying the Jubilee is having a very unifying effect. For the listeners who can't actually see, what they've set up here is it's going to be a screen where they're live broadcasting the concerts played in London. It's all decked out with lots of bunting. We've got beautiful Union Jacks everywhere. We've got families enjoying some jerk chicken, some sausages, a bit of ice cream. It really is a lovely, joyful atmosphere. And if you follow me, luckily enough, I've found a lovely lady who's going to speak to me. Okay. So, may I ask your name? And
Mary.
What do you think of the Queen?
Oh, I think she's brilliant. She's a lovely lady. She's carried out her duties all this time, from a young lady into her tender age now. And I'm full of admiration for her. She set a standard for the rest of the royal family, and I'm sure Prince Charles will carry it on in due course. And she is one person I'll come out and celebrate.
Oh, that's lovely. And I see here that you're all enjoying a bit of Prosecco to mark the occasion.
Oh, yes. Congratulating her, yeah, and saying thank you to her.
Fantastic. Well, like you said, there's a lot of people who say that the Queen Mother, pardon me, not the Queen Mother, the Queen has been an inspiration and is a role model for other royals. Do you think that, are you looking forward to this evening's events?
Oh, absolutely, yes. When I go home, a night in front of the telly, watching it all, yes. I hope the weather stays good for them. And I hope the Queen enjoys it, wherever she's going to be, with her wee slippers on.
Fantastic. And the corgis nibbling by her feet, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. They should be there with her. Absolutely. They've played a big comfort in her role as well. Absolutely.
That's it. Well, of course, the Queen and the royal family are a huge attraction for British tourism. You know, they bring millions and millions of people in, and it's their brand. They're almost an industry in themselves.
Yeah, of course they are, yeah, and we're proud of them. And we think that other leaders, some other leaders, should take a leaf out of her book.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. And I hope all the viewers get the chance to pop out and enjoy the festivities.
There in Ipswich and your lovely guest, thank you very much indeed. And Will up in Grantham with the consummate cake baker as well. Whatever you're doing, if you're having a party, really do enjoy it. And we'll be filming all over the place. And we're going to one ourselves tomorrow. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. You're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and friends here on GB News TV and radio. We've plenty more coming up this afternoon with our continuing coverage of Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. But first, let's bring you up to date with that weather.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick.
Yeah, but I'm just helping you. Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome if you've just joined us. It's 1 o'clock. I'm Alastair Stewart and we are into the final hour of our programme today. I'll be keeping you company here on TV and radio with plenty more still to come, including more on our coverage of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and today's big event, the Epsom Derby. Plus, we'll be hearing your stories and memories of Her Majesty so far. But first, let's bring you right up to date with all of the news. Here's Tamsin Roberts.
Alistair, thank you. Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Members of the royal family are attending events across the UK as the third day of the Platinum Jubilee celebration gets underway. The Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge will pay tribute to the Queen this evening, addressing crowds at a Buckingham Palace Jubilee concert. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have arrived at Cardiff Castle with their two children. They're meeting performers and crew involved in the Jubilee concert there this afternoon. Princess Anne has arrived at the Epsom Derby. The Queen, who's been experiencing some mobility problems, is to miss the event. Well, people at the races have told GB News exactly what Her Majesty means to them.
She's done a lot for this country and she's carried on to do what she said she would.
Well, a proper role model. Or the Jubilee celebration to me is all about family coming together and friends and family sharing a bit of time, quality time, and that's what she represents for us.
She's just brilliant for what she's gone through over the past number of years and how she's dealt with everything. She's just brilliant.
Well, the royal family has wished the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's daughter Lilibet a happy birthday as she turns 1 today. The couple's second child was named in honour of the Queen, who was given the nickname by her grandfather, King George V, when she was a child. Harry and Meghan are back in the UK for the Jubilee. So far, neither Lilibet nor her older brother Archie have been seen in public at any of the Jubilee celebrations. Other news now. Police have carried out a controlled explosion in London's Trafalgar Square. It follows a report from a member of the public of a suspicious vehicle shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. The square was evacuated and the force says the incident is not terrorism-related. Rail passengers in Scotland and the north of England are being warned of significant disruption to services over the bank holiday weekend due to striking workers. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union at Trans-Pennine Express have walked out in a long-running dispute over pay. The company is advising people not to travel today or tomorrow with a very limited service in place. Anyone heading to Jubilee celebrations is urged to seek alternative transport. Meanwhile, post office workers are also striking this weekend in a dispute over pay. Staff at some larger branches have walked out. Meanwhile, those working in administration will strike on Monday. Around 3,500 union members are involved in the dispute. In Ukraine, Luhansk governor says Russia has been blowing up bridges across the area's main river to prevent Ukrainians from bringing in military reinforcements. He reports that Ukraine has pushed back Russia's advance in the eastern city of Severodonetsk, taking back around 20% of the city. The Ukrainian official says troops can hold out for up to 2 weeks, despite Moscow deploying reinforcements. Oleksandra Matvichuk, head of the Centre for Civil Liberties in Ukraine, told GBNews their resistance protects other nations.
We have to remember that Ukrainians are fighting not only for our freedom, because Russian officials very clearly indicated that Ukraine is only intermediate goals. If he will not be able to stop Putin in Ukraine, he will go further.
Australia has paid homage to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee by renaming an island in Canberra after the monarch. The artificial island, formerly known as Aspen Island, was gifted by Great Britain in 1957. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese joined more than 50 Commonwealth leaders in praising the Queen amid her Platinum Jubilee celebrations.
We dedicate the new Queen Elizabeth Water Gardens, which will transform the foreshore. Treasure this moment. Remember it. A milestone that may never be repeated in any of our lifetimes.
This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now, though, let's get straight back to Alistair.
Tamsin, thank you very much indeed. We asked for your memories of Her Majesty the Queen, and I'm just going to give you a couple now because they're just lovely and stand out. First one comes from Jean, who says, I skipped work to see Her Majesty open the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in 1960. She walked a foot from me, and all I can remember are the colour of her beautiful eyes. I'm sure they were violet. She looked beautiful. Thank you for Jean. That's really, A, it's lovely, and B, it's quite moving. Roger also got in touch to say, I remember as a child visiting my grandmother in Peel on the Isle of Man. The Queen was visiting the town on one day and we watched from the headlands. Now, there's an ancient legend that when a reigning monarch visits the island, a mist will descend to protect the island from raiding Vikings. It was a bright sunny day, but an hour before the Royal Yacht Britannia docked at Peel Breakwater, a thick mist descended on the town, almost obscuring our view of the Royal Yacht. The Queen met the various dignitaries in the town, and an hour after the Royal Yacht departed, the mist lifted. Strange, but true, says Roger. Thank you. Do keep those messages coming in, and we'll pick out some more of the best ones as the programme continues. It's 6 minutes past 1, and don't forget you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're at GB News, where you can pick up on previous programmes that you may have missed and see what's going on the channel generally. Now, as we have said throughout, it really has been a wonderful weekend so far, full of celebrations marking 70 years of the Queen's remarkable reign. And today's the third day of events, and it is one of the Queen's favourites, the Epsom Derby. But unfortunately, she'll be stuck watching it on the telly with a cup of tea or a glass of something, entirely a matter for her, none of my business at all. I do not wish to commit treason live on television. She'll be missing out on those races in terms of being there. And we just heard that the Princess Royal has indeed arrived to stand in for her, as it were. We'll be crossing live to that racing event a little later on with a few highlights, and we'll also be going to our reporters up and down the country at street parties. Let me repeat once more, we do want to know what you're doing as well. Get in touch via gbviews at gbnews.uk and do tell us what your favourite bits are and any particular memories like we just had there from Jean and our other correspondent, Roger, where you've actually met with her or been close to her. Share those memories with us. Now, with the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in full swing, let's cross live to our royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who's here in the studio with me, but over there behind me, for the latest and what's planned ahead over the next, shall we say, 24, 36 hours, Cameron?
Well, Alistair, I've got some great news for you. We've had some unexpected royals turn up in Cardiff. So we knew that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge would be in Cardiff to watch their rehearsals for their concert a bit later on this afternoon. But they have actually brought Prince George and Princess Charlotte with them, their two oldest children. That's something we were not expecting. As I said, they're in Cardiff Castle ahead of those rehearsals. And I believe it's their first official visit to Wales, the Cambridge children, Prince George and Princess Charlotte. And I think perhaps it's important to Palisades to introduce them to Wales and make sure that the monarchy continues to be popular in Wales. And then, of course, Prince William and Prince George are the future Prince of Wales in the future. So it's kind of going full circle in that sense. They'll be introduced to West End performers who are going to be performing at this concert a little bit later on, but no Prince Louis. Perhaps he stole the show. He stole the show at Trooping the Colour, and perhaps he's slightly too young to attend the event in Wales today. But Prince William is now going to have to hot-foot it back to London because he is attending the Platinum Party at the Palace tonight in London.
Cameron, thank you very much indeed. And rumour has it that he and his dad are going to appear on the stage as well. So treats still ahead. Cameron Walker there, our royal correspondent, bringing you up to date and marking a card, as it were, for what lies ahead for you to enjoy. I'm delighted to say that joining me back in the studio now is an earlier guest, and that's the royal biographer Angela Levin. But also joining me this hour is royal broadcaster Helena Chard, who we also had the pleasure of chatting with on that event of Trooping the Colour. And I said to you before you came in, because you are a royal biographer, you write a broadcaster as well, but you're also pretty damn good with the old photography bit. And I said, what do the images tell you about the coverage of this story? And the reason I wanted to ask you that particularly, and you pip in as well in a moment, is that when you listen to whether it was the people at the street parties or whether it was people at Ascot waiting for the Derby to take place, the buzz is so positive, almost universally positive, and yet the photographs seem to be seeking division.
I don't know who actually decides the seating. I would think that's from within the royal household. But everybody is rooting for joy, and everyone wants to see Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Prince Harry, Meghan, some kind of unity somehow, just a little glimpse. It's not portrayed in the pictures, but having said that, there's obviously you can see how they all came in. It's almost done. It's done in order of importance, in a sense, the way they came in. Yeah. Obviously, you know, Prince Harry, Meghan, they're not working members of the royal family, so you can see that why it's been done. But people still want to see them talking, chatting. It's creating a division, which I think, especially for the younger generation, it's not a good look.
Yeah. I think that's spot on, because that's kind of where we left off earlier when we were talking to Norman Baker as well. and it may be controversial, but when people like you are writing, you step back and you're writing a biography or writing a piece about it or whatever, you've got time to think and reflect and contextualise. The newspapers are what people pick up this morning, consume, and it informs and it creates an image. And sometimes these guys and gals running the newspapers seem to me to misread the room.
They don't to me.
You think that's right?
I feel quite strongly that Prince Harry and Meghan couldn't come over here without an apology. They have been so cruel. They have told lies. And they've said, Harry said he felt he was in a zoo whenever he was part of the royal family. They asked for absolutely strong protection, and he didn't come before because it wasn't strong enough. And then they opened the windows and wave at the people outside. They had a car with blackened windows, giving them the security they wanted. And I think all that hypocrisy builds up. And I don't think you can expect Prince William, who is very... Prince Harry said he was stuck in the royal family. And also how rude they were about his wife, Catherine, who he protects. I don't think you can expect them to smile and say it's all lovely. It's fine for the Queen to do that. He's her grandson, she adores him, they have a great sense of humour in common, but I don't think you can expect other people to be instantly forgiven for the same time. And
Is it partly that the relationship between the brothers as much as with their mum, their grandma?
Yes, yeah. People want to see them getting on, and I work with various different communities, let's say, here in the UK, and even, Meghan Markle was, they were so excited that she was welcomed into the royal family. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong at all, because I agree to a certain extent that you can't do certain things. There has to be, you have to apologise, there has to be a way, but maybe within the royal family, they need to work something out. That's, so that we can all see that people are trying.
Yes.
Nobody likes to see division like that.
In a sense, I'll hold with that thought and you'd then come in after it, but holding with that thought, because I think it's a crucial one, is that there are a whole set of decisions that have been made over the last few days, few weeks in planning for these events that are entirely and exclusively in Her Majesty's gift. And frankly, we can comment upon it, but who are we to question it? But that lies there in the margins, as it were. There's a whole stack of other stuff that needs resolving, like that crucial relationship between the heir apparent and his brother. He's not, he's still in the line, but way down now because of George and Louis and Charlotte. But people out there will want that relationship to work, because we all want brothers and sisters and next generations to get on well together. That's a work in progress that is only in those young men's gift.
Absolutely. I say completely. And I think there'll be a lot more support for the monarchy as well in general. And, of course, we want it to continue. We love the monarchy, yes. And I think this will help. So it's really crucial, and I do think this is within the family as well to try and work something out.
Do you think the messages of Happy Birthday Lilibet that were put on social media this morning that Tamsin had in her news bulletin, including from the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, that's a conscious effort of reaching out an arm?
So that a child is one. I think that's got nothing to do with it. I think... two things. One is you can't trust Harry with anything you say to him because he sells it on to a TV station. I think nothing can be done until you really trust him that when they are talking, you can't, they keep it secret. The other thing is that you can't expect everything to be sorted out in a 10-minute conversation. To come at this long weekend, it's impossible. They're knocked off their feet with all the things they have to do, places they have to be. If he really wants to get back and make friends with William again, he needs to come when things are fairly quiet. Come for a week, then they can really discuss it. But you can't expect everything to be dropped just because he's arrived and in the middle of a huge festival and event, and very important, but because the Queen can't come to some of them, you can't start talking about how you are and make it up in 3 minutes. Too much has gone on and too much has been said from the Harry point of view.
You mentioned various groups that you work with and as it were, new social pressures that didn't exist back in the 1950s. It's a new agenda, as it were, that is impacting on the Prince of Wales, but also on William and Harry. Is there a generational sensitivity there that these guys are quite good at that? I was commenting because I support a hospice down in Hampshire, and the reaction in the hospice movement nationally when Catherine, when she became the Duchess of Cambridge, of saying one of my top charities is going to be institutions that exist to nurse children to an early parting, an early death, and to help parents through that absolutely ghastly reality. Nobody told her to do that. She chose to do it with the full support of her husband. That does matter to me. Absolutely. I mean, and there is a lot of good there. And I know, as I say, different organisations that I work with love and respect her. And obviously, because of what's happened, she's no longer here, and it's left this void. So it was almost like an inclusivity, like a big family of everybody, and it's a divide now. Yeah, and we were also, when Norman Baker was in earlier on talking to Angela, he's written a book saying, you know, what do you do, which is, as it were, an agenda for reforming the monarchy. Not reforming Her Majesty the Queen, but reforming the institution of the monarchy. And I suggested to him that, as you and I were just saying there, it's an evolutionary thing. If you try and have a revolution over it, it is likely to end in tears and not actually last, not actually work. Is that your sense as well? Yeah, I do think completely. Yeah. Completely. So, you know, I don't have the answer. We don't have the answer, do we? Everyone feels that, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But I just hope that something smooths out. I think the Queen has made a big step towards that, because on the first day of her Platinum Jubilee year, she announced that she wanted Camilla to be Queen Consort and not Princess Consort. And because I'm sure she's tidying up around her, and she doesn't want the huge fuss if they leave it. Yeah. Because some people say, no, she doesn't like, or she didn't like her, she wouldn't like it. And that could really boil. And as you said earlier, that you've got to do these things quite quickly. Otherwise, people get jaded and they don't want it and they go negative. But those who are listening to us on radio rather than watching on television, lovely pictures from yesterday outside St Paul's with Prince of Wales and Camilla arriving there for the service where he stood in for Her Majesty the Queen. You know, both of you, as well as I do, however, that there is not universal support and affection or even forgiveness for Camilla in the country. There are still those in the Diana memorial camp who will go back and hark back to the history of people having affairs and the rest of it. Wasn't that more to do with why the Queen said, look, let's draw a line under it? It's what we were talking about a moment ago. Queen done and dusted, got to move forward. Absolutely got to move forward. But also just to say, with photography, pictures tell a story. And it's so important to put great photography out there in the newspapers. It's very easy to stage something or to create pictures like this and people would judge. Yeah. But small things say 1,000 words, and that's really, really important. The thing that struck me, and it's a fine, we've got about 2 minutes left, but to both of you, as it were, an open piece, is that the written word, as well as the photography that I asked you to have a think about, which you did brilliantly, and thank you for that. But the written word, across pretty well all of the newspapers, has been remarkable in picking up on the stability that this weird and wonderful institution based upon hereditary, aristocracy, almost entitlement, has served a country as it's gone through tricky times. You can't wave a magic wand and create that. And as that brilliant French journalist was saying when she was talking to Paul down at the Derby, she said, I think sometimes, you know, the French, maybe they miss their royal family. And you talk to a lot of Americans who rather regret 1776 as well. I mean, I find that genuinely fascinating. Absolutely. I work with Americans as well, and I work with a certain channel, and they absolutely adore the royal family. They want to know everything. They want to travel here. They want to meet the royals. They just love everything about it. They love our history, and it's so important to keep that going. But Prince Philip has said two things that are very important. One is we have to work very hard to keep going. We can't just lay back and think we're here forever.
We have to work hard at it. The other thing he said, that changes must be made imperceptibly, because we don't want them to think we're completely changing everything, but slowly and gradually.
Yes.
Because he was a moderniser.
Well, I apologise for butting in, but the final thought from both of you. Exactly. He was the guy who, as it were, coined the term of the firm and said, if we're going to survive going forward, then we've got to make changes. We've got to be accessible. We've got to play by the rules. That was Philip's blueprint.
Yes. And Prince Charles was also a moderniser. He was thinking of things well before anybody
Absolutely
else
right.
was. But he doesn't want to upset his mother while she's still alive.
Yeah.
There's loads of changes he wants to make. But some of them, 96, she's moved forward enough. I mean, now let her just do what she wants.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to intrude on that. That's why some of the things seem old-fashioned, because they've been left for a very long time.
Lovely black and white pictures we're showing there of the Duke and the Queen. Final thought to you.
Just to say, there's lots of talk about the royal family and modernisation, and small steps. It is moving forward, and I think just to continue like that, because it does have to modernise slightly more.
And do you sense, as do I, I'm terribly naughty at doing this, saying final word, but I want the final word from you, as it were, is that William absolutely bulk standard has bought into that, what his father has tried gently to create without rocking the boat or upsetting Her Majesty the Queen, but what Charles bought into from Philip, that William's got that hook, line and sinker, just gets it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that matters.
That matters.
A real pleasure, both on Thursday, but also great to see you both back again. And thank you very much indeed, Helena Chard, broadcaster, photographer. Even if you do work with competitors occasionally, good for you, and why not? And my dear friend Angela Levin, always a pleasure as well. Thank you both very much indeed. We've plenty more still to come. What is it? It's 23 minutes past 1 here on GB News. Alastair Stewart and friends. After the break, getting the latest on the travel chaos that has gripped the country this week. Are there better things to look forward to, or is it still looking pretty dodgy? But first, let's bring you up to date with the weather.
Looking ahead to this afternoon in the UK is looking cloudy with heavy local thundery showers in the south, drier and brighter elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. Starting with the southwest of England, and it's rather cloudy with scattered showers and some sunny spells. The showers will possibly be thundery at times, increasing again later. A similar story in the southeast of England, rather cloudy with some sunny spells, but also showers which could be heavy and thundery at times. Some sunny spells are likely over South Wales, but also rather cloudy here with scattered showers. The showers will also be heavy at times. In and around the northwest of England, the weather will steadily improve. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunshine on offer, feeling warm in the sunshine and light winds. The weather remains very similar across the Pennines in the northeast of England. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunny spells, but cooler and cloudier along the North Sea coast. In southern Scotland, it will also be dry with plenty of sunshine for all. With light winds, it will feel warm in the sunshine. There is very similar weather in Northern Ireland too. It will also be dry with plenty of sunshine here, also feeling warm with the light winds. Variable amounts of cloud across the south with a continued risk of heavy thundery showers while remaining dry elsewhere. And that is how the weather is shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome back. It's heading towards 1:30 and you're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and friends here on GB News, TV and radio on a weekend of celebrations for Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. However, it is not just Jubilee bank holiday weekend, but also half-term, and the chance for many families finally to jet off to sunnier climes or staycations around the country. However, many have faced delays of hours at airports and train stations this week, with services delayed or cancelled. And with train strikes planned to start on Monday too, what can those who are due to travel over the next couple of days expect? It has not gone well. A very good friend of mine and someone who's guided us through all of this over recent months is Paul Charles, travel journalist and owner of PC Agency, and there he is. Just a general snapshot from you, because I know you and admire you as one of the experts of the whole piece. So we've got troubles on the ferries, we've got troubles at the airports, we've got troubles on the trains. I mean, it is a mess.
It's a great British summer, Alistair. Good afternoon. I mean, essentially, you couldn't make it up, could you? But yes, on the ferries, you've got issues with P&O, of course, and not all of their ships being shipshape. On the trains, you've got the threat of national strikes during June, coupled with a London Underground strike this Monday, which is going to close most stations. Plus, of course, you've got the issues at our airports where 2,800 flights are leaving today alone, with some 500,000 passengers on them. The sheer volume of demand to travel is causing a lot of these issues as well, of course, as inflation and demands by workers for higher pay. So you've got a real melting pot of issues which are frustrating a lot of people.
With the airlines and the airports bit in just a little bit more detail, Paul, because you rightly raised it as well. And you and I knew, because we've talked about it so many times, that this was going to happen. The moment we got to that point where COVID, even though, as Norman Baker was saying, long COVID is still a real problem for some folk, in the main, it's green flag, off you go and have a good time. The airports and the airlines knew that was going to happen, and yet they stand accused by Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, of being massively ill-prepared.
I think it's really unfair for Grant Shapps to be criticising the industry. Don't forget, the industry was virtually shut down for 2 years. It was reopened in October last year, and then Omicron came along to shut it again by the UK government, which virtually put everything on the red list at that point. So if you're the boss of an airline or an airport, you wouldn't be hiring in the knowledge that you weren't sure when things were going to open up again. Then they were told at the last minute that border restrictions would be relaxed in the UK. That was in March. Only then did they have the confidence and the visibility to start hiring. And it takes 3 to 4 months to find enough people to get them into place. Plus, you've got the government, which has been dithering actually over security passes, clearing those security passes for everybody who works in an airport. They all have to have those passes. And it's no wonder that we've got problems with flights being cancelled and queues at airports when there aren't enough staff. But there's one other factor, Alistair, which I think is really important and not to be underestimated. And I'm afraid it's a Brexit factor. Since leaving the EU, we've not only seen a shortage of workers because there aren't the numbers coming in from the EU to work in the UK in our airports and on our airlines, of which around 30% of workers were from the EU, but also we've left EASA, the European Safety Aviation Agency. And what that means is there's a lot more paperwork for airlines to fill in. It's harder to get spare parts in at short notice. It's harder to get new planes in at short notice. All of this has contributed to a much more difficult scene for airlines and airports.
Sure. That will cause hackles to rise in some quarters, but I hear what you say, and you are the expert, and I'm not got to add to it, because I want a quick thought from you on another issue, and that is something I do know about, being a former industrial correspondent, as you well know, because we worked together at that stage. Yeah. I find it extraordinary that you've got a great industry like the rail industry that is still totally dominated by just 2 trade unions. And if they decide it's time to pull the stops out, I think, as you said yourself a moment ago, over pay or safety, whatever it might be, they can do that. And there's very little anyone else can do about it. And that's what we are looking down the barrel at right now.
You're right. They have huge power, especially the RMT, the Rail and Maritime Union, of which, of course, a lot of people sign up to. They pay their annual membership fees because they believe they will be protected by that union. And yes, not much has changed over the last 2 decades, certainly, maybe 3 decades with that union. It still wants to ensure its members are well paid. And of course, when you're in an inflationary environment of some 10 to 12%, probably getting worse, then understandably the workforce are going to be demanding pay rises closer to 10% than closer to 2%. So they have huge sway over our nation. Of course, what's changed, though, is that more people are working from home. So they don't quite have the power that they used to in terms of being able to stop the nation and grinding it to a halt, because so many more people now can do their jobs from the comfort of their own office at home.
Fascinating. So we are finally in the 21st century, so that's a good thing. Paul, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for breaking into your afternoon to speak with us. Thanks very much indeed. My friend Paul Charles there, who is PC Agency, one of the great experts on travel. You're watching Alastair Stewart and Friends, and thank you very much indeed for so doing. We've plenty more still to come in the final half hour of our programme, including popping around the country again to see some more of your celebrations for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. But first, let's bring you right up to date with the very latest news headlines. Here again is Tamsin.
Alistair, thank you. It's 1:33. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. Princess Anne has arrived at the Epsom Derby as celebrations for the Platinum Jubilee weekend continues. The Princess Royal is representing the Queen at the event. Her Majesty, who's been experiencing some mobility problems, will miss the races this afternoon. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have arrived at Cardiff Castle with their 2 children. They're meeting performers and crew involved in the Jubilee concert taking place there this afternoon. The Queen has taken part in a video call with recipients of the Australians of the Year award.
It's been wonderful to have. How lucky we get technology and I can speak to you all, which is splendid nowadays, isn't it?
Her Majesty was introduced to 4 Australians who've made outstanding contributions to their communities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. During the call, the Queen said she was delighted to meet them and commend them on what she called marvellous work. Police have carried out a controlled explosion in London's Trafalgar Square. It follows a report from a member of the public of a suspicious vehicle shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. The square was evacuated and the force says the incident is not terrorism-related. In Ukraine, Luhansk's governor says Russia has been blowing up bridges across the region's main river to prevent Ukrainians from bringing in military reinforcements. He reports Ukraine has pushed back Russia's advance in the eastern city of Severodonetsk, taking back around 20% of the city. The Ukrainian official says troops can hold out for up to 2 weeks, despite Moscow deploying reinforcements. TV, online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. Stay with us. Alistair will be back in just a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes to 2. That has a certain nice symmetry about it, doesn't it? You're watching and listening to Alastair Stewart and friends here on GB News TV and radio on a weekend of celebrations for Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. Amongst Her Majesty's many roles is as Defender of the Faith and Supreme Governor of the Church of England. And all sorts of people have been saying how terribly upset she would have been to miss the service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral yesterday. As I say, lots of people have been saying it who may or may not know, but my next guest genuinely does know, and I'm delighted that he's been able to join me again on the programme. It is Dr. Gavin Ashenden, who is himself a former chaplain to Her Majesty the Queen. Come on then, let's have it authoritatively from one who genuinely does know, rather than earning a living writing a newspaper column. Would she have taken it in her stride, or will that have been a moment of genuine sadness for her?
I have to say that I don't know any more than anybody else knows, because, first of all, there are two components to the monarchy. One is the outward presentation and the role, and the other is the inner person. Now, the inner person, Elizabeth Windsor, is very private and extremely well controlled. And indeed, the great success, I think, of her 70 years of reigning have got to do with the way in which the inner and outer Elizabeth have managed to relate to one another. So if I did know, I wouldn't say so, because that would be to break the thing. But there are things that we can all know simply because they're in the public domain, and that is that if you read a biography of the Queen, you know that she's been saying her prayers since she was a child. You know that her Christian spirituality informed the way she grew up in her family and her relationship with her father. You know that she has acted as an icon of spirituality, of faith, of trustworthiness, of duty in all her public performances. I mean, we're pretty sure, looking at her face, that there's no great gap between the outward performance and the inner person, which is what how we define hypocrisy. There's none of that in her. So these are all things we can know. We know she's a woman of profound Christian faith. Also, in the middle of her career, her life, her calling, she had a meeting with Billy Graham, which is quite well known. Now, Billy Graham, as American evangelists go, is pretty hard hitting, and the Queen invited her into Buckingham Palace, took him in her stride, and those who really know talk about the profound effect he had on her privately. Now, the only way I think that private faith seeps out into the public faith is in one small but very significant aspect that touches our lives too, and that is her Christmas speeches.
Yes.
And they've been written in an increasingly personal and profound way, I have to say. I mean, I'm no longer an Anglican, so you'll forgive me if I criticise the establishment a bit. I thought the sermon at St Paul's yesterday was really so vacuous as to be utterly awful and a great shame. Now, if you compare the sermon of the Archbishop of York to what our Queen has written in her private speeches, it's like tin and gold. She's got it. She knows it. She lives it. And it's a shame that those who do it professionally for a living aren't quite as profound as she is.
And I don't want to overlabour it, but I said earlier on it had been widely praised, which it has in the newspapers. But was York trying to be a little bit over-populist then with the horse racing analogies and staying in the saddle and staying with the course?
It's difficult, isn't it, if you're going to speak in a public arena like that, to get the right...
And at short notice.
To hit the right tone. Yes, well, except you'll have plenty of people to help him prepare scripts, even at short notice. I guess it's a matter of taste, isn't it? It didn't happen to be to my taste, but it could be because I'm getting to be an old fogey. But and it is extremely difficult to speak to so many people and so many tastes. I would have done it. Nobody asked me. I would have had it done differently. But I think I simply want to compare the fact that Her Majesty is an authentic Christian, and it shows in everything he does.
I totally agree. Gavin, I'm going to park it there, not because I don't want to hear more of you, but because we can't actually hear as clearly as we would like to. So I hope you'll come back, because the one thing I do want to talk to you about is the importance of private prayer and Bible readings to her, which I didn't know until I researched for our coverage this weekend. So let's make another booking, and we'll make sure the microphones and the cables all work properly in the signal, and we'll carry on the conversation then. But for now, Gavin Ashenden, thank you very much indeed. Gavin is a former chaplain to Her Majesty the Queen, and little throwaway line was intriguing, is that he has converted from Anglicanism to Roman Catholicism. But we'll have him back, because he's got lots to say that is genuinely intriguing. Now, this whole Platinum Jubilee weekend has been full of celebrations and parties across the whole country. We've dipped our little toe into one or two of them already. The royal family themselves have taken part in some of the great traditions. Of course, you saw Trooping the Colour, the Thanksgiving service at St Paul's Cathedral, which Gavin and I were just talking about. But how do the royal family themselves really enjoy their intimate, their private gatherings with close family and close friends and no public eye? Well, I had yesterday the most wonderful opportunity to sit down with a royal party planner, Harriet Webber Jameson, a protégé to the doyenne of party planning, Lady Elizabeth Anson. And my guest planned the Queen's 80th birthday. Here, for your enjoyment, I hope, is our fascinating conversation. Harriet, welcome.
Thank you.
In a curious sense, this whole Jubilee weekend has been one great big party, whether it's the serious and sombre stuff at St Paul's or the fly past with Her Majesty chatting to her great-grandchild, saying, look up here, what have you. Have you actually been directly involved as a great party planner?
We're not directly involved with the actual events being planned this weekend. It's really well managed in-house at Buckingham Palace. It's an amazing team who have worked together for years and years and years and are incredibly good at what they do. And we've had the pleasure of working with them on kind of previous events and a lot of the private events we've done. They've got it all under control. And
I was dying to ask someone, and I wish you'd been with me when we covered the balcony appearance and when the working royals came out, and just wonderful, wonderful images. And then they go back inside to a light lunch, to a glass of champagne and a natter. What happens?
It's family together.
Yeah.
I should imagine it's a really relaxed moment, and that they too will be laughing about, Her Majesty and Louis having such fun on the balcony.
When you come into it as a great party planner, are you conscious when you're working for the royal family that essentially you're working for a bunch of traditionalists?
It's a funny one because, yes, we stick to the traditions a lot of the time, and there are, there's protocol to follow and what order everyone turns up in, and the seating plan is always great fun. But they're not traditional in a stuffy way. There's, we have done many, many events with them, and there is no kind of fixed format. There is a certain amount of relaxed sense of fun, and that the guest list and the people there, they are actually really great fun, really enjoy each other's company, and are super relaxed around their friends.
I get that, but I pick up on something what you said about the guest list, and I can imagine. I mean, it's true of any dinner party, or let alone a royal dinner party. Oh no, Aunt Matilda cannot bear the sight of cousin Jonathan, or whatever it might be. But in terms of the guests, do they say, look, we're having a party to celebrate somebody's great birthday or an engagement or what have you, here's the list of the folk that we want invited? Or do you also chip in and say, you know, you might want to think of inviting X, Y and Z?
Well, we've very much always looked after the private parties.
Yeah.
So
that's very much, they have who they want.
They have who they want, but Lady Elizabeth was a great friend. There was a level of friendship, because Lady Elizabeth sadly lost her parents when she was very young, and was incredibly close to the Queen Mother and to the Queen and to Princess Margaret. You know, her first memories that she recalled to me, she had no idea who they were. She had no idea that her godfather was the king and that the girls were princesses. They were just wonderful people that she enjoyed spending time with. And therefore, because of her knowledge, she used to make a lot of suggestions, and we actually used to create a lot of the guest list to put forward and actually send them as tick list and say, tick who you'd like, let us know if there's anyone you've missed. And I learnt a lot. My first party for Lady Elizabeth and party planners was the Queen's 80th birthday.
That's quite an awe-inspiring, nerve-wracking entree.
An initiation of fire. And I had no idea when I was offered the role there, and in quite a junior position, that actually my senior was going to leave 2 weeks later, and I was going to lead on this incredible event with Lady Elizabeth, and that was 5 months of learning with Lady Elizabeth herself, who is an absolute font of knowledge, and who, despite her sadly having died 18 months ago, I still ask every day in my head, what would she say, what would she do, how would she have interpreted this? Because I spent 15 years at her side, and it's the only time I've worked in parties is alongside, so my way is an adaptation of her way.
Yeah. Did she ever utter the word discretion to you?
Discretion's a really funny word, because discretion, yes, it's truly important that everything is kept private, but it's more out of a respect. But I don't like the word discretion because it kind of alludes to the fact that there's something that should be kept discreet because there might be an indiscretion. And, you know, I think...
It's respect as much as anything.
It is. It's a form of trust and respect.
They also, however, have a small group of celebrities who they quite like as well, whether it's William and Catherine and Tom Cruise. Are they, as it were, friends of the royal family because they also know how to behave?
I think there's a certain amount of respect that goes with the honour of being invited to either perform or attend an event like that. And we have never had an issue with anybody who's ever even got near to overstepping a mark.
You mentioned that your first gig was Her Majesty's 80th birthday. You also famously did the engagement party for Catherine and William. Across the generations, do you sense as a professional, getting a job done for some of the most important clients in the world, that it's changing, it's shifting, that which the Queen would have wanted at the Ritz is profoundly and fundamentally different to what Charles and Camilla might want, or Catherine and William?
Again, going back to the original thing of tradition, there are certain things that are just never going to change. And there's certain things about parties that will never change. The guest list changes. The party element of it and how much fun they will allow themselves to have is going to continue to grow. But as far as the type of parties, the format of kind of inviting people somewhere lovely, having a lovely dinner and then having a dance afterwards is always going to be similar.
Which one did you most enjoy?
Oh my goodness, which one have I most enjoyed? Probably the smaller, intimate parties. We've done dinners where there have been like 12 people or 22 people, and it's a very intimate, relaxed, dropped shoulders, beaming smiles, having the time to really talk to the people that are there. And you can see that that's when both Her Majesty and the other members of the family are really in their element. They get to spend time talking to their friends at a party.
There's nothing better than 11 other people and you, as long as you really like the other 11 people.
Absolutely.
What a brilliant and lovely woman. It was a real honour to meet Harriet Webber-Jameson, a royal party planner, the royal party planner, who worked very closely with the late, great Lady Elizabeth Anson. Thank you very much for finding time for us. Hope you enjoyed it too. Now, amongst those who are having a party to celebrate Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee is Carol Brown, who's holding a special garden party luncheon with her family and friends today. And there she is. Looks to me as if it's well underway, Carol. How's it going?
Yes. I've got all my family, friends and my golfing buddies here.
And what is that lovely amber? What's the amber liquid? Is that champagne or something stronger?
I've got a Pimm's, and it's making me feel a bit giddy.
I would never have guessed. Tell me, and also the two lovely women behind you, why you're having this party, what the Queen and the Jubilee mean to you.
Reign of the Queen. I was 15 when she was took the throne, and I remember the coronation really well. And I drew the short straw out of all the friends and decided to throw a luncheon. But they've all brought a dish, and I'm only doing the mains, which are burning in the oven at the moment.
I'm told there's a theme, though, to the food, whether it's burning or whether it's going to be perfect. What's the theme to the menu?
The theme is Britain. We've got British gammon, British sausages, which cost £1 each, I may say. Bells. And we've got Turner's best chicken pies made in Worthing.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. And who is the young man who is...
salads.
Hang on a minute, Carol. Who's the young man who is dipping in and out to your left?
The young man? Yes, he is my left hand. He is the technical wizard.
Well, no, bring him back.
Everyone's
bring him back. Let's have it across the generations. Ask him to tell us as well and speak loud and clear what the Jubilee means to him and what the Queen means to him.
The Jubilee, the Queen. What does Jubilee mean to you, loud and clear?
It's like an award for the Queen for being the Queen for a long time.
Yes. Quite right. Yay! Well done.
I think he deserves extra gammon and extra pork pies.
Tom.
Well, give our best wishes to Tom and Carol, to you and your lovely friends. Have the most wonderful party and enjoy the Pimm's.
I wish you could see them all.
We can see a few in the background. Bit more celery, perhaps, in the old Pimm's, but there we are. Yes. Who am I to say to you? But have a truly wonderful party.
Family in Florida and all my American friends there.
Brilliant stuff. Great.
I think we've gone.
Carol, thank you very much indeed. We are blessed. We have the wonderful guests and politicians and commentators, but what makes GB News, what we call it, the People's Channel, is people like Carol Brown, a GB News viewer who got in touch with us and said, we're having a party and we'd love to chat about it a little bit. Absolutely marvellous. Now, also celebrating today is Nick Martell. Nick spoke with the Queen and Prince Philip at the Silver Jubilee in Guernsey and joins me now. Nick, what are the memories of that gathering? I believe that you've kindly let us have a photo as well. So speak to your memories and speak to the picture, Nick.
Well, I was very lucky. I was one of a group of Boy Scouts.
We've got the picture up there. Is that you front and centre there?
Yes, that's me.
Now, I remember covering a royal visit to the Channel Islands way back, and there was a certain event where Her Majesty was presented with ducks, drakes, mallards or something like that. Is that a Jersey thing, a Guernsey thing, or a Channel Island thing?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I was just very lucky. I was one of a group of Boy Scouts that was asked to do a guard of honour for the Queen that morning. I then went home, went down to our village green, and she recognised me and came over and started talking to me. And obviously, it's even more special, a photo for me now, that the Duke of Edinburgh is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely marvellous. And can you remember the content of the conversation?
Well, she said she was very impressed with the Guard of Honour, and she's just incredibly warm and reassuring and comforting. It's a real pleasure to meet her, and as I say, to see the Duke as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Final, very rapid thought, because we're going to fall off the air if we don't do it. Because going right back to the English Civil War, the Channel Islands were absolutely loyal to the Crown all the way through, even when the going got a bit rough. Do you still feel that about the Channel Islands, Nick?
Yeah, I was born and bred in Guernsey. I love the Channel Islands, but I've been in London since 1986 and absolutely love London and our great country. Absolutely fantastic.
Great stuff. Thanks for breaking into your afternoon to talk to us and share those memories. Nick Martell, GB viewer, former scout who met not only the Queen, but also the Duke of Edinburgh at the Silver Jubilee celebrations, giving a great shout out to one of my favourite bits of the United Kingdom as well, the Channel Islands. That is all that we have time for today. I'll be back tomorrow from 12 till 2 from a party just outside Wolverhampton. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and a very good afternoon to you. Bye-bye.
Looking ahead to this afternoon in the UK is looking cloudy with heavy local thundery showers in the south, drier and brighter elsewhere. Let's take a look at the details. Starting with the southwest of England, and it's rather cloudy with scattered showers and some sunny spells. The showers will possibly be thundery at times, increasing again later. A similar story in the southeast of England, rather cloudy with some sunny spells, but also showers which could be heavy and thundery at times. Some sunny spells are likely over South Wales, but also rather cloudy here with scattered showers. The showers will also be heavy at times. In and around the northwest of England, the weather will steadily improve. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunshine on offer, feeling warm in the sunshine and light winds. The weather remains very similar across the Pennines in the northeast of England. It'll be dry here with plenty of sunny spells, but cooler and cloudier along the North Sea coast. In southern Scotland, it will also be dry with plenty of sunshine for all. With light winds, it will feel warm in the sunshine. There is very similar weather in Northern Ireland too. It will also be dry with plenty of sunshine here, also feeling warm with the light winds. Variable amounts of cloud across the south with a continued risk of heavy thundery showers while remaining dry elsewhere. And that is how the weather is shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not